Welcome back to Talk Tickers. Ready for another deep dive into the world of earnings calls.
Always.
Today we're tackling Commercial Metals Company, CMC, their Q1 2025 report. And, well, let me tell you, it's a bit of a roller coaster. We're talking surprise losses, but also whispers of a steel comeback.
Oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, buckle up. We're going to break it all down, everything you need to know.
Yeah.
From those unexpected losses to why some people are saying steel is about to make a major comeback.
What I find fascinating is how CMC is kind of walking this tightrope, right?
Yeah.
You've got these short-term pressures they're dealing with, but then they're also making these big, bold moves, long-term moves that could really pay off.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. First things first, CMC actually reported a net loss for Q1 2025.
Oof.
Not exactly what investors want to see, right?
Not ideal.
But before you panic, there's more to the story.
Right. There's always more to the story. This headline loss, a lot of it was due to a one-time charge related to a lawsuit. They're planning to appeal it, so, it might not even be a factor going forward.
Gotcha.
If you look at their adjusted earnings, which basically take that charge out of the equation, they came in at $0.78 per diluted share.
Okay, so not amazing.
Right.
But historically speaking,
still pretty solid.
So pretty strong.
Yeah.
What about their core EBITDA? Because that kind of gives us a better sense of
absolutely, yeah,
like their operating profitability, right?
That's right. It's a much better picture of how the core business is actually doing. And their core EBITDA was $210.7 million, which is, it's good, it's solid, but it's down from last year.
Okay, so there are some headwinds.
Yeah, there are definitely some challenges.
Let's dig into those challenges a little bit. Let's start with North America.
Okay.
I know that they saw really strong demand for steel products.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they hit their highest levels since Q3 2023.
It's true.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. It is. Construction activity really stayed strong late into the year. A lot of projects were playing catch-up, right? After those weather delays we saw earlier in the year. All the supply chain issues, all that kind of backlog. But here's where things get a little interesting.
Okay, I'm ready. What's the catch?
Well, all this economic uncertainty we're seeing, it's making customers a little hesitant to sign new contracts.
Makes sense.
Think about it. Interest rates are all over the place. There are new policies being kind of thrown around. Everybody's just kind of waiting to see what happens next.
Yeah, wait and see mode.
Exactly. And that hesitation, it puts pressure on steel prices, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, that squeezes CMC's margins.
Yeah, it's that feast or famine thing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's all this demand, but they don't have a ton of pricing power.
Exactly. It's tough to raise prices when everyone's nervous about the future.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's hop across the pond and see what's happening with CMC's European operations.
Okay.
How are things looking over there?
Europe, it's kind of a mixed bag, to be honest.
Yeah.
The good news is their operations are back in the black.
Oh, okay.
Which is great,
Yeah.
And they had this annual CO2 credit that gave them a nice little boost.
Oh, okay.
But, there's a lot of imports flooding in from places like Germany.
Right.
And that's really putting a squeeze on their margins.
Yeah, the classic import squeeze. It never goes away. But how is CMC responding to all this pressure? Are they just kind of sitting back and hoping for the best?
Well, that's what I find interesting. They're not just sitting back. They're actually being pretty smart about it.
Okay.
Managing their costs really carefully and kind of biding their time,
Okay.
Waiting for some key things to shift in their favor.
Like what? Give us the inside scoop.
Well, for one, they're hoping for an economic recovery in Germany. A stronger German economy would mean more demand for steel.
Right.
And less pressure from those imports. And, they're also keeping a close eye on all the reconstruction efforts in Ukraine, which, could create a whole new market for steel suppliers.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
So they're playing the long game.
Yeah.
They're strategically positioning themselves.
Exactly.
To take advantage of those future opportunities. Now, let's talk about CMC's emerging businesses.
Okay.
How are those performing?
Profits were down in this segment, but CMC is saying, hey, it's just a temporary setback.
Okay.
They're pointing to two main culprits here.
All right, hit me.
All right. So first up, you've got their Tensar division. They specialize in soil reinforcement products.
Right.
They had some project delays, which, push back some revenue.
Yeah.
But CMC saying, hey, these projects, they're going to move forward later this year, so they're not super concerned.
So just a temporary hiccup.
Yeah, they're hoping so.
What about the second culprit?
All right, so culprit number 2 is the slowdown in the truck and trailer market.
Oh, okay.
And that's affecting their impact metals division,
Yeah.
which supplies steel for those industries.
Right.
So, they're kind of getting hit from both sides there.
Yeah, multiple angles,
Mm-hmm.
but they're still optimistic about the long-term growth potential.
They are. CMC fully expects to recapture those lost earnings.
Okay.
And they're still projecting pretty strong annual growth in the segment. They see these setbacks as just bumps in the road, not roadblocks.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges. Now let's switch gears and talk about what they're actually doing.
Right.
To address those challenges, to position themselves for future growth. What kind of strategic moves are they making?
This is where it gets exciting. CMC isn't just reacting to market forces, they're actively shaping their future.
Okay.
And their TAG initiative, that's a prime example of that.
TAG. Fill us in. What is this mysterious TAG initiative?
Okay, TAG. It stands for Transform, Advance, and Grow.
Oh, okay.
And it's a company-wide effort to boost their margins and efficiency permanently. Like, they're not messing around.
Okay, so they're going all in.
They're going all in on efficiency. That sounds pretty ambitious. What are some specific examples?
Okay, so for starters, they are laser focused on cutting down their alloy consumption and waste.
Okay.
They're optimizing their processes, implementing best practices, and they're aiming to achieve some pretty significant cost savings. They've even said there's a potential annual benefit of around $5 million just from this one initiative.
Wow, that's a pretty big chunk of change.
It is.
So doing more with less.
Exactly.
Always a good thing for the bottom line. What other areas are they kind of focusing on with TAG?
Another key area is improving their melt shop yields.
Okay.
By, making sure that everyone's on the same page with the technical know-how, tightening up measurements, and just kind of making sure that the process is executed in a disciplined way.
And they expect that to unlock further savings. Somewhere between $5 and $10 million annually.
So it's not just cutting costs, it's like optimizing the whole production process.
The whole thing, yeah. Making sure every step is as efficient as it can be.
That's impressive. And remember, this is just 2.
Yeah.
Over 150 different initiatives.
That's right. They're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Yeah, it really sounds like they're pulling out all the stops.
Yeah.
But TAG is just one piece of the puzzle, right?
Right.
CMC is also pursuing organic growth.
Absolutely.
With their Arizona 2 facility and the Skill West Virginia project.
Yeah, they've got a lot going on.
Tell us a little bit about those.
All right, well, let's start with Arizona 2.
Yeah, okay.
This facility, this is a game changer.
Okay.
It's the world's first micro mill that can produce both rebar and merchant bar. Now, merchant bar, if you're not familiar, it's the type of steel that's used in everything from bridges to machinery.
Oh, okay, so they're really diversifying.
They are.
Their product mix.
Exactly. They're not just limited to rebar anymore. This gives them so much more flexibility.
Yeah.
They can tap into these whole new markets, product lines. It gives them a real edge over the competition. And get this, they're already hitting consecutive monthly production records at this facility.
Wow, so they're not just building it.
No.
They're making it work.
It's up and running, and it's performing really well.
How's that output expected to ramp up over the coming year?
They're expecting it to steadily increase throughout 2025.
Okay.
And ultimately reach a run rate near its full capacity, which is 500,000 tons annually.
Wow.
Yeah, it's huge. This is a major boost to their production capabilities.
Yeah, there's a lot of steel. Sounds like Arizona 2 is a big, big win for CMC.
It is. But, they're not stopping there.
Right.
You've also got the Steel West Virginia project in the pipeline.
Yeah.
This is a brand new facility. It's slated to come online in late 2025.
Okay.
Further expanding CMC's footprint. And, strategically positions them to really tap into that Northeast market.
Okay, smart.
Where they don't have as much of a presence right now.
So they're making strategic investments to solidify their position in existing markets.
Right.
And expand into new territories.
Yeah.
Smart.
Very smart.
But organic growth is just one part of their strategies.
Yeah. Right.
They're also exploring acquisitions. What kind of companies are they looking at?
They're targeting companies that align with their core business.
Okay.
But, offer them opportunities to expand into kind of related markets.
Okay.
Think early stage construction products, services that kind of complement their existing offerings.
Right.
They want to leverage their expertise, their market knowledge to create these synergies
Okay.
and just capture a bigger slice of that construction pie.
So they're not just looking for any company.
No.
They're being strategic.
They're being very strategic.
They want acquisitions that will strengthen their existing businesses
Yeah.
and open up new opportunities.
That's right. It's about building a more resilient portfolio, one that can weather those market fluctuations
Yeah.
and capitalize on emerging opportunities.
All right. We've covered a lot of ground here, from their Q1 performance to their strategic initiatives.
Yeah, we have.
What are your key takeaways so far?
My main takeaway is this. CMC is showing a real ability to balance these short-term challenges with a very clear long-term vision.
Okay.
They're not shying away from difficulties, but they're addressing them head-on.
Right.
And at the same time, they're laying the groundwork for future growth.
It's like they're playing 3D chess.
Right. They're thinking several moves ahead.
Yeah, they're fighting those headwinds, but they're keeping their eyes on the prize. But let's zoom out a little bit and talk about the bigger picture.
Right.
What are the key trends shaping the steel industry as a whole?
Yeah.
And how are those trends impacting CMC?
Great question. One of the biggest trends we're seeing is just increased demand for steel, driven by a lot of different factors.
Okay.
Infrastructure spending, governments worldwide are investing heavily in roads, bridges, airports, all sorts of essential infrastructure projects. And guess what? All that construction requires steel. Lots and lots of steel.
So CMC is well positioned to kind of capitalize on this.
They are. They're in a good spot.
Infrastructure boom.
Exactly.
What else is driving demand for steel?
Well, another major factor is the reshoring of manufacturing.
Oh,
As companies bring production back to North America,
yeah.
we're seeing all these new factories and facilities being built,
Right.
and that requires a lot of steel.
Okay.
This trend is driven in part by all these rising geopolitical tensions and the desire to kind of secure supply chains.
Right. Have more control over where things are coming from.
Exactly.
So it's like a double whammy for CMC.
Yeah.
Infrastructure spending and reshoring, both fueling demand. Are there any other big trends that CMC should be paying attention to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The energy sector is another one.
Okay.
New energy projects, things like pipelines, renewable energy installations,
Right.
they're all creating demand for kind of specialized steel products.
So it's not just traditional infrastructure, it's the whole energy landscape.
The whole energy landscape is contributing to this demand surge.
How about the housing market?
Right.
Because that's a big driver of construction activity,
Yeah,
right?
it's huge, yeah.
So how's that looking?
Well, it's had some ups and downs lately, but the underlying demand for new homes, it's still really strong, especially as millennials enter those prime home buying years.
Right.
So, even with some uncertainty in the housing market, CMC sees long-term potential there.
Okay.
That demand for housing, it's a fundamental driver of construction.
Right.
And CMC is kind of banking on that demand to stay strong over long haul.
So we've got infrastructure spending, reshoring, energy projects, and housing demand all coming together to create like this perfect storm.
It's a good time to be in the steel business, that's for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like CMC is in the right place.
They are.
At the right time.
Yeah, and they're not just waiting around for the market to come to them.
Wow.
They're actively making those moves to capitalize on these trends
Okay.
and maximize their gains.
Now, let's circle back to CMC's European operations for a sec.
Okay.
We know they're facing some challenges, especially from all those imports.
Yeah, it's a tough market over there.
What are their plans for navigating this? Are they just going to ride it out?
Right.
Or are they exploring some more proactive strategies?
Well, they're taking kind of a two-pronged approach. First, they're really laser-focused on cost management.
Okay.
They've implemented all these measures to make sure that their operations are as lean and efficient as possible.
Okay.
To stay profitable.
Right.
Even with all that pricing pressure.
So they're tightening their belts.
Yeah, they're weathering the storm.
What about the second prong?
All right, prong number 2. They're closely monitoring everything that's happening in the market,
Okay.
waiting for those things that could shift the dynamics in their favor.
Got it.
So they're watching the German economy really closely, anticipating that potential recovery
Right.
that could boost demand and ease that pressure from imports.
Yeah.
And they're also looking at those reconstruction efforts in Ukraine,
Right. Yeah.
which could create new opportunities for them.
Okay.
So they're playing a bit of a waiting game
Yeah.
while they optimize their operations
Yeah.
to withstand the current pressures.
It's a balancing act. Now let's talk about something that could really impact CMC's bottom line, that $330 million lawsuit.
All right, that's a big one.
We know they're appealing, but let's break it down a little bit. What are the allegations against CMC, and how confident are they that they're going to win this appeal?
So the lawsuit alleges that CMC was engaging in some anti-competitive practices,
Okay.
specifically restraints on trade.
Got it.
And the plaintiffs, which is Pacific Steel Group, they're claiming that CMC's actions really harmed your business.
So it's a pretty serious accusation.
Yeah.
How is CMC responding?
They are vehemently denying any wrongdoing.
Okay.
They maintain that all their business practices are fair and ethical.
Okay.
They seem very confident in their legal position,
Okay.
and they believe that they have a really strong case for appeal.
Okay, so they're not backing down without a fight.
Nope, they're digging in their heels.
But what are their specific arguments for the appeal?
Yeah.
Like, what grounds do they have for overturning this verdict?
Well, we don't have all the legal details, of course.
Right.
But CMC has said that they believe the jury's decision was based on a misunderstanding
Okay.
of the facts
Okay.
and the relevant law, and they're pretty confident that the appellate court will see things differently.
So they're putting their faith in the legal system.
Yeah, they're hoping the system will work in their favor.
But it's a cloud hanging over them.
It is, and I'm sure investors are watching this very closely
Yeah.
because, a successful appeal would be huge for CMC.
Right.
It would remove this massive financial burden,
Right.
probably boost investor confidence.
Yeah.
On the flip side, an unsuccessful appeal
Yeah.
could have the opposite effect.
It's a high stakes game.
It is. And it's a good reminder that even in a seemingly straightforward industry like steel production,
Yeah.
these legal complexities can have a huge impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we've covered a ton in this segment. From the specifics of CMC's Q1 performance
Yeah.
to the broader market dynamics that are shaping their future.
It's a complex picture.
What's your overall assessment of where CMC stands right now and their prospects for the future?
Well, CMC's facing a mix of challenges and opportunities, right?
Right.
The economic landscape is pretty uncertain, the competition is fierce, and they have this lawsuit hanging over them.
Right.
But they're also showing resilience.
Yeah.
They're innovating. They have this really strategic mindset
Yeah.
that I think positions them well for the long term.
They're not shying away from the fight.
Absolutely not. They're, taking those proactive steps to control what they can control,
Yeah.
adapt to those market dynamics,
Yeah.
and capitalize on those opportunities as they emerge.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
It will.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fascinating story to watch in the coming quarters.
All right, listeners, that's a wrap for part 1 of our deep dive into Commercial Metals Company's Q1 2025 earnings call. Join us for part 2, where we'll continue to explore CMC's performance, their strategic moves, and what it all means for you, the investor. Welcome back to Talk Tickers. We're diving deeper into CMC's Q1 2025 earnings call. Now, last time, we left off talking about how CMC's really stepping up their game.
Yeah. They're not sitting still.
No, making some big moves to try and boost their profitability, their efficiency.
Right. Lots of moving parts.
So let's pick up where we left off and really dig into what it all means for investors.
Okay. Sounds good.
What are the key factors that investors need to be thinking about, as they consider adding CMC to their portfolio?
Well, first off, I think you really got to keep a close eye on how they execute their strategic initiatives,
Right.
especially that ambitious tag program.
Right. They're aiming for, what was it, like 5-10 million in savings?
Yeah, something like that. They're talking some pretty significant cost savings, efficiency improvements. If they can actually deliver on those promises, that could be a huge boost to their bottom line.
Right. So tag execution is key. What else? What else should investors be watching?
The construction market outlook. Got to keep an eye on that.
Okay, yeah.
CMC is basically betting big that there's going to be this construction boom that's going to fuel their growth. So you really need to ask yourself, do you agree with that assessment?
Right.
Think about things like infrastructure spending, reshoring trends, housing demand.
Right.
All of those things, they're going to play a huge role in CMC's future.
So investors really need to do their own homework.
Oh, absolutely.
On the macro environment, what's happening in the bigger picture?
Absolutely. Can't just rely on what the company's saying.
No. Okay, what about the competitive landscape? How does CMC stack up against its rivals?
Okay, so CMC is a big player in the North American rebar market.
Yeah.
But they're not the only one. They face competition from both domestic and international producers. So, you want to look at CMC's strengths and weaknesses compared to their peers. Think about things like their cost structure, their production capacity, their market share.
So you really need to dig into.
You got to do that competitive analysis.
Yeah, competitive analysis. Can't forget about that.
Nope.
And of course, we can't forget about that big lawsuit.
Oh, right.
How should investors factor that into their decision making?
I mean, the outcome of that appeal is a bit of a wild card.
Right.
If they win, it's huge. It lifts this massive financial burden off their shoulders. It's probably going to be really positive for investor confidence.
Yeah.
But, if they lose the appeal,
Yeah.
it could have the opposite effect.
Yeah. Could be a real hit to their financial stability.
Exactly. And it's going to impact their stock price.
So it's a risk factor to consider.
It is.
Not necessarily a deal breaker.
Right?
Investors got to weigh the potential upside
Yeah,
against the potential downside.
exactly. How much risk are you comfortable with?
Okay, so all that in mind, what's your take on CMC's investment potential?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It's not an easy yes or no answer.
Well,
It's a complex story, lots of moving parts.
but it's interesting. Well,
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's a really good case study in how companies can navigate challenging times,
yeah.
position themselves for future growth.
Right, because they are in a tricky spot right now, but they're not just
No, they're not giving up.
giving up.
No, they're fighting.
They're fighting, they're adapting.
They're trying to come out stronger on the other side.
Okay, so not a slam dunk investment,
Yeah.
but there's definitely potential.
Oh, yeah, there's potential there.
Okay, good. Now it's time for our favorite segment of the show. This is not financial advice,
Right, here we go.
where we put on our speculation hats
Oh, yeah.
and we dream up some outrageous but plausible trade ideas.
Fasten your seatbelts, everyone.
Let's imagine, just for kicks, that CMC wins their appeal and the construction market explodes even more than predicted.
Right, I like where this is going.
Like, we're talking mega boom.
Mega boom, okay.
What's the play?
Lay it on me.
CMC calls, baby.
Oh, wow, okay.
High risk, high reward.
High risk, high reward. Gotta love it.
But remember, purely hypothetical.
Absolutely.
For entertainment purposes only.
This is not financial advice. Do your own research. Consult with a professional.
Yes.
Don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
All right, back to reality. We've given you a lot to think about today with Commercial Metals Company. They're definitely a company to watch in 2025.
Oh, yeah.
Their strategic moves, how the market evolves. It could be a really, really interesting year.
No doubt. I think the big question is, will CMC be able to ride this potential construction wave
Right.
and emerge as an even stronger player in the industry?
That's the question.
It's going to be fascinating to see how these strategic initiatives play out.
Keep an eye on those initiatives. They could be game changers. All right, so that wraps up our deep dive into Commercial Metals Company's Q1 2025 earnings call. We hope you found it insightful, and we'll be back soon with another deep dive into the world of earnings calls. Welcome back to Talk Tickers. We're wrapping up our deep dive into Commercial Metals Company's Q1 2025 earnings call. We've gone through the numbers, looked at the market. We've basically uncovered CMC's playbook.
If we've seen what they're up to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it's time to kind of put it all together.
Right.
What does this mean for investors? What do you got to be thinking about?
Decision time. Right. Bullish or bearish on CMC.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's break it down.
Okay.
What are the things, that investors really need to be considering as they look at CMC, maybe think about adding it to their portfolio?
All right. Well, I think first and foremost, you got to look at how well is CMC going to execute on these strategic initiatives, especially this tag program. It's pretty ambitious.
Yeah. It is.
They're aiming for some pretty significant changes.
Yeah, lots of moving pieces there.
Lots of moving pieces. And, if they can actually achieve what they're setting out to do, I mean, that could be a big boost for their profitability.
Okay, so tag execution, very important.
Very important.
What else should investors be kind of watching?
The construction market outlook. This
Yeah.
is really key. I mean, CMC is banking on a construction boom
Right.
to drive their growth. So you got to ask yourself, do you buy that? Do you think that's going to happen? What are you seeing out there in terms of infrastructure spending, reshoring, what's happening with housing demand?
Right, all those things that...
All those things feed into that bigger construction picture.
Exactly, that's going to really shape their future.
So investors really need to do their own homework.
Absolutely, yeah. Do your research.
Don't just take CMC's word for it.
Don't just take their word for it.
Okay, what about the competitive landscape?
Okay.
How does CMC stack up against the other steel producers out there? So CMC is a major player in North America, especially for rebar.
Right.
But they're not the only game in town. They've got competition, both from companies here in North America and from international companies.
Right.
So you really need to look at, okay, what are CMC's strengths? What are their weaknesses compared to those other companies?
Right.
What's their cost structure look like? How much can they produce? What's their market share? You got to do that deep dive, that analysis.
Right. Competitive analysis. Can't skip that step.
Nope.
And, of course, we got to talk about the elephant in the room, that lawsuit.
Oh, yeah, that's still looming.
It's still out there.
Yeah.
How should investors be thinking about that as they're, making their decisions?
I mean, honestly, we don't know what's going to happen with that appeal.
Right.
It could go either way. If they win, fantastic news for CMC, right?
Right.
Takes that big financial burden off the table, probably a big boost for investors.
Yeah.
But if they lose, well, that's not going to be good, right? Could really impact their financials, their stock price.
Yeah, it's a big risk.
It is a big risk.
So it's something to keep in mind, but not necessarily a deal breaker.
Right. I mean, you got to weigh that potential upside against the potential downside.
Exactly.
Figure out what your risk tolerance is.
Yeah, what are you comfortable with? Okay, so big picture. What's your take on CMC? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Give it to us straight.
Ooh, it's tough. It's not a simple answer, is it?
No, it's not.
I mean, there's a lot going on with CMC.
Right.
A lot of factors at play. But I will say, I think it's a really interesting example of how companies can navigate a tricky environment. Like things are tough out there, but they're not just sitting around.
Right.
They're taking action. They're trying to set themselves up for success down the road.
They're fighters.
Yeah, they're definitely fighters.
So not a slam dunk,
Not a slam dunk.
but definitely potential.
Oh, absolutely.
Good. Now it's time for everyone's favorite segment. This is not financial advice,
All right. Buckle up.
where we put on our speculation hats, we get a little crazy, have a little fun.
Here we go.
So let's say, just for fun, CMC, they win their appeal,
Yeah.
and the construction market, it just explodes,
Right.
like beyond anyone's wildest dreams.
Okay. I'm listening.
We're talking mega boom across the board.
Mega boom. All right.
Lots to play.
What are we doing?
CMC calls, baby.
CMC calls. Okay, I like it.
High risk, high reward.
High risk, high reward. That's what we're here for.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
But obviously hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Not financial advice. Don't actually go out and do this.
Yeah. Please don't base your investment decisions on our crazy ideas.
Exactly. Do
Right.
your own research. Talk to a financial advisor. All that good stuff.
All that good stuff.
Okay, back to the real world. We've covered a lot with commercial metals companies. Been a great deep dive. Lots to think about.
Definitely a company to watch.
Yeah, a company to watch in 2025, for sure. I think their strategic moves, how the market shakes out, it's going to be interesting.
Big question is, are they going to be able to ride that construction wave?
Right.
Come out on top?
That's what we want to know.
Keep an eye on those initiatives. They could be game changers.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's it for our deep dive into CMC's Q1 2025 earnings call. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thanks for joining us.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive, another earnings call, another fascinating company. So stay tuned.
Until then, happy investing, everyone.
See ya.